In Brazil, a popular ex-president caught up in a corruption probe gets a new job as the current president's chief of staff. The move could help shield former President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva from possible prosecution. For more on the legal loophole, we're joined by CCTV's Paulo Cabral. So, Paulo, tell us about this appointment to the cabinet.
Well, Elaine, there are two main reasons here for this. One is for Lula to try and reorganize the government support base, which is extremely shaky right now. You know that President Dilma Rousseff is facing an impeachment process, and right now it's looking like, things don't look great for her. Former President Lula always had very good transit in Brazilian parliament with the representatives from pretty much all layers, so he's going to test how much influence he still yields in the parliament. Of course, he does not have all that political muscle anymore, but then also he will try, and there's expectation also that he will be able to take over control of the economy and try and do something different there to fight the recession that the country is just deepening here in this country. But then there is this other reason, which is the corruption probe that's been going on in Brazil. Lula is being investigated, and then now that he becomes a cabinet minister, what happens is that the prosecution, the action against him goes to the Supreme Court. Only the Supreme Court can actually try and prosecute cabinet ministers in Brazil. So we have these two reasons, both trying to reorganize the government and getting some protection for himself.
Yeah, these two figures tied together even more. Paulo, how much could Lula actually do at this stage?
Well, that's the big question. He certainly does not have the same kind of power he had when he left the presidency as the most popular president in Brazilian history. Just last week we were standing by for maybe his arrest, and then this week we started standing by for him to become a minister. It's not really a great situation to be in. So that's one thing, how much he can do in politics. And then the economy. The situation is already very bad in Brazil, and there are some parts of his party's left wing that want him to be to spend more money, to go for more public expenditure and leaving the budget balance to the other side. And the market wants President Lula, as he was in his first term, respecting the market and trying to balance the country. So it's really something to be watched. Lots of uncertainties in Brazil right now.
Yeah, developments still to come, I'm sure. Paulo Cabral, live for us in Sao Paulo. On the third day of peace talks in Geneva, Syria's government negotiators have ruled out direct talks with the rebel opposition. The rejection of direct face-to-face discussion is a complication for United Nations mediators. CCTV's Richard Bestic is live for us in Geneva. And Richard, how much of a setback is this?
Well, it certainly imposed further hurdles for the UN mediators here in Geneva, trying to bring these two warring sides together. I think the best interpretation we can put on it, Elaine, is that it demonstrates the great divide that exists between the Syrian opposition and the government of Bashar al-Assad. But there is no qualification here, no halfway house. The Syrian side, the negotiating team here, led by Bashar Jafari, is very clear. The words are blunt. There will be no face-to-face negotiations. Have a listen in.
The Syrian delegation is not honored to sit with a terrorist in direct talks. The chief of the opposition delegation is a terrorist who belongs to a terrorist group that bombed embassies, killed students and innocent people. There will be no direct talks unless this terrorist apologizes and shaves his beard as well.
There we go, Elaine. The mood here in Geneva, the divide between the two sides not yet closed. They have another 8 days of talking, at the end of which the UN mediators wanted a roadmap to peace and a final end to the conflict, the 5-year conflict inside Syria. Today's words from that negotiator clearly don't help at all. Elaine.
Richard, the Syrian Kurds say they will declare a federal region in northern Syria. What has been the reaction there in Geneva to that?
Well, roundly rejected. The Kurds fighting in Syria hold about 250 miles of land along the Turkish border. They are saying they want federal status for that so that they can rule it. It's been roundly rejected by by some Kurd groups indeed, but particularly by the delegation representing the Syrian government. And that's interesting, Elaine, not just because they're rejecting what the Kurds are saying, but they're rejecting all kind of devolution of power, federalism inside Syria, or autonomy for certain areas. And that's very much on the agenda of the United States and Russia, who want it to be used as a plan for the future of Syria. Elaine.
All right, CCTV's Richard Bestic live for us at the Syria peace talks in Geneva.